Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Coding with Ado. Today, we're going to connect to Nano Banana. So, Nano Banana is the library from Google Gemini, which allows us to create really funny images. It lets us create a really realistic images, lets us mix different images, grab context, stay with the context. So, we're going to do just that. Okay? So what we're gonna need is to grab two images together, right? So we have Messi, we have a cowboy hat, and we're gonna put the hat into Messi. As simple as that. Without knowing, Photoshop or whatever, we're gonna just send it to Nano Banana and let it do whatever it does best. Okay? So in order to do that, we're gonna use TypeScript in this case. So we're gonna do first an npm init minus y. So it creates the package.json. We're gonna install our .m to actually store our API keys. As we're gonna use TypeScript instead of JavaScript, we're gonna install the TypeScript packages. So TypeScript, we're gonna use TS Node, and we're gonna use types node. Okay, awesome. So we're not touch, but not do anything for now of the .m file. And let's create our index. Wait, actually, we need to first create our tsconfig file, tsconfig.json, to actually add here some of the information that we're going to use for this. So, super simple. I think I have Copilot connected. So most of the information is going to come from Copilot. In this case, so Copilot options, that is ES 2022 module. No, let's do Node next. Yeah, I like Node next. Yeah. And model session on next. We're going to need a strict. True, actually. Interloop, true, split, true, types. I use types as node. And what else? Out there, yeah, I'm gonna use this. And I think that's it. Will you include this? Basically just if we wanna compile it. I don't think we're gonna compile it though. So let's just do this. Okay. So I don't think that we're gonna compile it because mainly we'll test it out here. I'm gonna save it with this so you guys can go into my GitHub and check that out. But yeah, just this is for compilation purposes. Okay. So let's create our index.ts file. Okay, awesome. So what do we do? Okay, so we have Messi, we have hat, so now we have to start working together. The first thing that we're going to do is, of course, import all the information. Again, remember, we have Copilot here, and so let's start adding lots of things. There's going to be lots of suggestions that we're going to ignore, okay? So just finish this. So let's import .m.config/config. Let's import star SFS because we're gonna need to read from the file system. We're gonna import Notepad so we know where we are right now. And I think that's it because I think that we're gonna actually go and request the information. How can we do this? Let me think a little bit. Let's actually do fetch, so we don't need to install anything else. Okay, so we're gonna grab const API key to the process.m.api key. Well, actually, I'd love to get it in uppercase. We could add here like a escaping where if there's like no API key, just throw something out, you know. And then let's grab the base URL here, which is always really comfortable because if we wanna change it tomorrow and we're gonna add like the next version and the next version, it makes sense to have it here. So let's do a const endpoint to be. So this is gonna be HTTPS. I think it's generative language. Yeah, most of the APIs is generative language dot Google API slash. It's V1 beta, not V1 beta 2. And in the models, the actual model is called Gemini 2.5 flash image. Generate image. No, actually not generate content. Okay, awesome. So now that we have that, we need to read the files in order to send them to Gemini. So before we actually generate the image, let's create a function. Let's call it function get image @64, and we're gonna send the image path as a string. Okay, I'm gonna return it. We're gonna send the image path as a string. I don't think we need a return. Oh yeah, we need a return. Doesn't even allow me to do anything else. So let's do const or absolute path as just saying path.resolve correct the image path. So basically we're gonna send the image path of like Messi or the hat. We're gonna do an if not exist, entonces manda un error. And we're gonna return the fs.read file sync. Okay, the apps, and then the to base 64. Okay, so we do this, we close this, perfect. So this function actually it's gonna go and say like, hey, this is your file, return to me the information about the file. Okay, so that's awesome. So as we have that, the next thing that we're gonna do, let me think. Do we need to get the main types? I think we need to have the main types. So let's actually create something for that. So let's create like a function called function main type from extension ext string. Yeah. So yeah, so basically this is pretty simple. We just need to go and say like, hey, this is not the file path. We are sending the file path. Okay. I'm gonna return the string of like if it's meme type JPEG or GIF or PNG or whatever. So we're gonna first of all grab the path, the file path actually, yeah, file path with the path, and say like, hey, give me the lowercase. So give me it in a lowercase. And let's check every single case here. So if it's a JPEG or JPG, then it's an image to JPEG, PNG, GIF, whatever. So yeah, let's accept that because this is really a really dumb logic. It's really simple. Okay, awesome. So we have the files, we have the mapping times. Now we need to actually create a function to start working on all together. Okay, so let's create like an async function. Let's call it main. So I'm gonna start working there. So we have a couple of things. So we have let's do const image1 equals to rate. As we have it in different files, let's actually create, yeah. So image1 is actually messi.jpg. .jpg, const image2 equals to hat.jpg, and then let's do const base 64 of image2 is actually base 64 of image2 is the gate image base of this one. So basically we say, hey, for the image one, grab me the base 64. For the image two, give me 64. For the main type one, main type from extension from image one, and then from image two. So right now we have the 4 things that we need in order to just now go and call to Gemini to start using it. Okay, so now we have that. Let's do const body equals to the whatever we're gonna set, right? So let's create the contents, okay? And in the contents, we're gonna send the role, the role user, and then we're gonna send the parts. And in the parts, we're gonna send inline data with the data, which is gonna be the image base 64 image one, and the main type one. Okay, so we're sending that one. Okay, we're creating another one there, saying, hey, yeah, give me the image two and the filter. So basically, right now, I'm saying like, hey, this is the information that we're not working with, but we're still missing the prompt, right? So remember, agents, they need a prompt. They need something to know about. So basically, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a text, and instead of doing this, of course, we wanna describe it. We actually wanna do like place the second image in the first image on the head of the person. So in this case, we're actually being really, really specific. Okay, so instead of understanding what's going on, we say, hey, this is a hat, like put it on the head of the other person. So let's see if it actually does that in a really good way. And we can then go start and mix matching this prompt. So that's kind of like the magic here, where you can say like, and then place it in a place where the second image is kind of like whereabouts. So it could, I don't know, transport Messi, not just give it a hat, but also put it in a cow, in a horse, whatever. So yeah, mounting a cow, that's not normal. Okay, so yeah, you're gonna laugh at me in the commentaries. Okay, so we have the contents of that, so that's awesome. And now we're gonna do something. So we close contents. And then we need to. What do we need to do? I think we need to do something else here. So before it closes the body, we have to do a generation config. So we actually say, yeah, in here you could say like add less temperature, more temperature, add more tokens, less tokens. So basically the amount of thinking that you want the GenAI to actually use that. But the only thing that I'm going to ask for here is a response meme type. Okay, so response meme type is going to be an image PNG. So we actually want the image. We don't need anything else. Just give me the image. That's it. Okay, awesome. So we close that. Awesome. Now we need to call and do the fetch. Okay, so let's do a const response equals to await fetch. We're gonna use the endpoint. We're gonna use. We need to send to the endpoint the key. Yeah, we need to. That's there. Slap there and there. Okay, so we have the endpoint. We're gonna send the key. I wanna send the API key. That's perfect. And then we're gonna do, it's a method post. Yes, it's a method post. We're gonna send the header content type application JSON because we're actually sending a JSON here with the body, which basically is this body. Okay. And I think that's it. We have the response. If response is not okay, then we can throw an error, say like, hey, there was an error, so we know what's going on. If it does work, then we need to do something about it, okay? So this is kind of like the most trickiest part that most people fail there. It's like trying to understand how to get the information from Gemini, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna investigate through the responses, and once we have that response, then we save it, right? So we are not over yet, we're almost over. So if you're not response okay, let's actually do, let's get the JSON from the request, okay? Let's do, there's something called candidates. That's basically, it's like the candidate responses, like the possible responses that you will be waiting from Gemini. So that's why it's called candidates. So the const candidates is the result, result dot candidates, which basically we could fail safe a lot here because you never know if the actual data is coming in or not. So let's create an image base 64 where we are gonna put the image resultant from Gemini. So image base 64 as a string. It's gonna be whatever we are waiting for, okay? And as we asked before, we are waiting for a MIME type. So image MIME is gonna be image PNG because that's actually what we asked for. Okay, we are doing this, but not a lot like that. But yeah, we're gonna do like that. So we're gonna now navigate through all the candidates. Okay, so for const C of candidates, we're gonna do const parts equals the content parts object, yeah, and then that's okay. Now you're telling me whatever we need to do. So yeah, that's basically it. So for then const p of parts, then const d equals to p inline data and p main type. So basically what it's doing here is we are checking that the end dot starts with Okay, so whatever it's doing here is whenever we ask something to Gemini, OpenAI, whatever, like DALI or whatever, most of these AIs, they tend to travel a lot and do a lot of things that we don't need to. For example, in Gemini, you could go in and say like, hey, I want an image from this. And the response from Gemini will be, yeah, I'll think about it. Or, yeah, here it is. And then send the image, right? So lots of candidates for a specific response. And agents now, even though they look like it's really smart, they're really smart and everything, they still lack this kind of like decision power. So whenever you do, again, ChatGPT agents or whatever, most of the developers, they just grab the first response as like the actual response that the user wants to see. But sometimes, and most of the times, that's actually not the case, right? So that's where developers are still needed, or someone like in data is still needed to actually go in and say like, oh yeah, I requested this, but I know that normally the first answer is not the best because of the context or because of my prompt couldn't be better. So I try to search here in this case the actual candidate, so the actual candidate of the responses, that it's actually the image. So we don't care about like the response is like, yeah, here it is, because we don't want that. We actually want the image. So we're gonna go in and travel through all the candidates. We're gonna travel through all the parts of these candidates because sometimes in the candidate it will say like here it is and then the base 64 image. So we're gonna travel through everything on the candidates. Then in the candidates we're gonna see if there's like multi parts of that candidate. For example, again, here's the image. Then we're gonna grab that image, and that's basically how we're gonna navigate through it and grab the image and the bind type. Okay. So we actually need to grab the bind type. We are doing it mainly because if the AI doesn't care about my response bind type, that's why we're getting this. That's basically why, like, again, we don't trust a lot in the AI right now, even though, again, it's really good and you'll see how it works. Um, but you shouldn't trust your whole process to Gemini or ChatGPT or Mistral or whatever. So if there's no base 64 image, let's throw an error, right? Okay. And then, yeah, basically this is what we want, right? So we wanna grab the output file. So let's do const output file from the image line, right? Like output.png or whatever. Let's write the file into basically here, like, I want it in the same folder, whatever. Let's console like a save. Okay, simple as that. Now we need to do a main catch error. Let's do a process exit as well. Okay. We're missing something. We're missing this thing. Okay, awesome. Okay, so we just need to test it out and make it break, right? So the first thing, of course, we're gonna try to run it, ts node index.ts, and it will break, right? So it breaks because, of course, there's no API key. So we need to grab it. So how do we grab it? So in order to grab it, we actually go here and create our API key. So how to get an API key from Gemini? The way is like this. You need to go here to aistudio.google.com, but instead of going directly to the Gemini, you need to go /app/API keys. We can go here and create a new API key. Let's give it a name of our key. Let's give it like Messi. Let's create a new project called Messi. Create. And create key. Really important, remember to set up the billing, because if you don't set up a billing, I'm sure that we're gonna get like an error there. So just be sure of that. I'm gonna copy it. I'm gonna see if we can have something with the free tier, but I think that Nano Banana actually requires us to set up like a payment form. It's not really expensive. I think it's like 6 cents per image, something like that. I don't know. We're gonna review it later. But yeah. And now that we have our API key, we're just gonna go back and call it. Okay, so let's see what the answer was. So as you can see, it didn't like the response to be a JSON PNG. So we're gonna have to ask for an application JSON, and that's why, guys, we actually need that navigation to actually search for the image. Okay, so let's call it again. Okay, And so what's going on right now? So quota, yeah, we need to set up billing. Okay. And let me go back and set up the billing. Okay, so let's try again. I think this is it, guys. Still hitting the quotas. Okay, let me pay for that. Okay, let's see. Now we have credit card and everything. Let's see. Okay, awesome. So she's a monitor needed for the Gemini. Okay, so let's actually remove this generation config. Let's see whatever it sends us. So I assume that it's working. It's not working. No image render response. Okay, so let's actually try to look for what's going on here. Let's debug it. It's a console log, response candidates, and the candidates itself. Okay, so let's grab it. Let's see what's going on. Takes so long, dude. Okay, so we have parts here. Let's see whatever is in the parts. So at least we have something. Console log. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, let's see what's in the parts. Sometimes it could be maybe like it couldn't build the image. Like maybe the hat and the Messi, they are not compatible. Like maybe the types of the images or something like that. Maybe the image is really not good. Okay, wait. So yeah, that's the issue. So no image was found, but this is a base64. Again, what I told you guys, it's here. Oh gosh. Okay, so here's the thing. It's not inline data underscore data. It's inline data. Okay, so inline data. Again, as I told you, this is the where most of the people fail. Same thing here. Name type, me including that, right? So okay, let's do that again. And we should have Messi's hat, Messi with a hat. The cowboy Messi. Let's see. We want cowboy Messi. Come on. Come on, Messi cowboy. Yes. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Drum rolls, please. Yes. Yes. I love it. Awesome. Yeah, it's not perfect. I know it's not perfect. You know, you can see some hair there, but guys, it's Cowboy Messi. That's awesome, right? So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this ride. It was an interesting one. So I actually created an app called Style Mix. It's in the App Store, which basically does this kind of things. You can go and snap maybe your selfie or grab like a messy picture, whatever. Grab some pants, some shirts, some hats, whatever, and just style it and mix it. Just check it out if you want. It's free to go and download. It's a freemium, so it's expensive as you saw. Like you have to put your credit card and everything. So you can go and download it, test it as much as you want. If you want to, grab me some coffee or whatever, there, just subscribe for a little bit. I think it's like a $5 I don't know, subscription. And that'll be awesome and lovely. But yeah, otherwise, just coming in here, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading again this like the new season. I think that the next video is gonna be about like BO3. So it's for Google as well, but instead of just images, it's gonna be for videos. But yeah, that's kind of like what I'm gonna try to do. And I think the next ones we're gonna start diving really deep into like AI and creating MCPs, maybe creating our own LLM, something like that. So, just hang on in there. I'll be uploading a little bit more this year and this season. And yeah, let's see what happens. Thank you guys.